A very long time ago, in midwinter, when the snowflakes were falling like feathers from heaven, a beautiful queen sat sewing at her window, which had a frame of black ebony. As she worked, she looked sometimes at the falling snow, and it happened that she pricked her finger with her needle, so that 3 drops of blood fell upon the snow. How pretty the red blood looked upon the dazzling white! The queen said to herself as she looked at me, if only I had a dear little child who had skin as white as the snow, lips as rosy as the blood, and hair as black as the ebony window frame. Soon afterwards she had a little daughter, with skin white as snow, lips rosy as blood, and hair as black as ebony, and she was therefore called Little Snow White. But Alice, when the little one was born, the good queen died. A year passed by, and the king took another wife. She was a beautiful woman, but proud and haughty, and she could not bear that anyone else should surpass her in beauty. She had a mirror, and when she stood in front of it and asked,
Mirror, mirror upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all?
The mirror answered,
Thou, O Queen, art the fairest of all. And the queen was contented, because she knew the mirror could speak nothing but the truth.
But as time passed on, little Snow White grew more and more beautiful. When she was 7 years old, she was as lovely as the bright day, and still more lovely than the queen herself, so that when the lady one day asked her mirror,
Mirror, mirror upon the wall, who is the fairest of us all?
it answered,
O Lady Queen, though fair ye be, Snow White is fairer far to see.
The queen was shocked, and grew yellow and green with envy, and from that moment envy and pride grew in her heart like rank weeds, so that she had no peace day or night, until one day she called a huntsman and said,
Take the child away into the woods and kill her, for I can no longer bear the sight of her. When you return, bring with you her heart, that I may know you have obeyed my will.
The huntsman dared not disobey, and he led Snow White out into the woods, and placed an arrow in his bow to pierce her innocent heart. But the little girl cried and begged him, saying,
Ah, dear huntsman, leave me my life. I will run away into the wild forest and never come home again.
And as she was so beautiful, the huntsman had pity on her and said, Run away then, you poor child. While to himself he thought, The wild beasts will soon have devoured you. And yet it seemed as if a stone had been rolled from his heart, since he no longer had to kill her. Then as a young wild boar came rushing by, he killed it, took out its heart, and carried it home to the queen. The cook was ordered to prepare this, and the wicked queen ate it, and thought she had eaten the heart of Snow White. Poor little Snow White was now all alone in the wildwood, and so frightened was she that she trembled at every leaf that rustled. Then she began to run, and ran over sharp stones and through thorns, and the wild beasts ran past her, but did her no harm. She kept on running until she came to a little house, where she went in to rest. Inside the cottage, everything she saw was tiny, but more dainty and clean than words can tell. Upon a white-covered table stood 7 little plates, and upon each plate lay a little spoon, besides which there were 7 knives and forks and 7 little goblets. Against the wall, and side by side, stood 7 little beds covered with perfectly white sheets. Snow White was so hungry and thirsty that she took a little food from each of the 7 plates, and drank a few drops of wine from each goblet, for she did not wish to take everything away from one. Then, because she was so tired, she crept into one of the beds, but it did not suit her, and so she tried the others, but one was too long, another too short, and so on, until she came to the 7th, which suited her exactly. She said her prayers and soon fell fast asleep. When night fell, the masters of the little house came home. They were 7 dwarfs, who worked with a pickaxe and spade, searching for copper and gold in the heart of the mountains. They lit their 7 candles and then saw that someone had been to visit them. The first said,
"Who has been sitting on my chair?"
The second said, "Who has been eating from my plate?" The third,
"Who has taken a piece of my bread?"
the fourth, "Who has taken some of my vegetables?" The fifth, "Who has been using my fork?" The sixth, "Who has been cutting with my knife?" The seventh,
Who has been drinking out of my goblet?
The first looked around and saw that his bed was rumpled, so he said,
"Who has been getting into my bed?"
Then the others looked round and each one cried,
Someone has been on my bed too.
But the 7th, when he looked at his bed, saw little Snow White, who was lying asleep there. He called the others, who came running up, and they cried out with astonishment, and brought their 7 little candles and let the light fall on little Snow White. "Oh, heavens! Oh, heavens!" cried they. "What a lovely child!" They were so glad that they did not wake her up, but let her sleep on in the bed. And the 7th dwarf slept with his companions, 1 hour with each, and so got through the night. When the sun rose, Snow White awoke, and oh, how frightened she was when she saw the 7 little dwarfs. But they were very friendly, and asked what her name was.
My name is Snow White.
She answered,
And how did you come to get into our house?
asked the dwarfs.
Then she told them how her cruel stepmother had intended her to be killed, but the huntsman had spared her life, and she had run on until she reached the little house. The dwarf said, If you will take care of our house, cook for us, make the beds, wash, mend, and knit, and keep everything neat and clean, then you may stay with us and you shall lack for nothing.
Yes,
Answered Snow White,
with all my heart.
and so she stayed. She kept the house neat and clean for the dwarfs, who went off early in the morning to search for copper and gold in the mountains, and who expected their meal to be standing ready for them when they returned at night. All day long Snow White was alone, and the good little dwarfs warned her to be careful to let no one into the house. "For," said they, "your stepmother will soon discover that you are living here." The queen, believing, of course, that Snow White was dead, and that she had eaten her heart, and therefore she was again the most beautiful lady in the land, went to her mirror, and said,
Mirror, mirror upon the wall, who is the fairest fair of all?
Then the mirror answered,
A lady queen, though fair ye be, Snow White is fairer far to see. Over the hills and far away, She dwells with 7 dwarfs today.
How angry she was, for she knew that the mirror spoke the truth, and that the huntsman must have deceived her. She thought and thought how she might kill Snow White, for she knew she would have neither rest nor peace, until she really was the most beautiful in the land. At length she decided what to do. She painted her face and dressed herself like an old peddler woman, so that no one could recognize her, and in this disguise she climbed the 7 mountains that lay between her and the dwarf's house, and knocked at their door and cried,
Pretty things to sell, very cheap, very cheap.
Snow White peeped from the window and said,
Good day, good wife, and what are your wares?
All sorts of pretty things, my dear.
answered the woman,
Silken laces of every color,
and she held up a brightly colored one, made of plaited silks.